It's what you hearing. It's what you hearing. Listen. It's what you hearing. Listen. It's what you hearing. Listen.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Next gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. Next gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door to spread. With the
knock, knock. MrCropper is here. We're going to be talking about this guy, CosmicSkeptic, why free will doesn't exist. We got a few little bits in this video we're going to pick on here, and we're going to start out at 2 minutes and 47 seconds, which is reasonable. We skip over his introductory stuff.
Let's begin by considering what would have to be true in order for us to truly have total free will.
Alright, so that we could take by way of a definition. What would we mean by free will then? If free will obtained, what would it mean? And that would tell us how we're going to prove whether it exists or not. So what would free will mean?
Able to have acted differently. Well, firstly, we would need to be aware of everything that is influencing our actions, including...
So to have free will, we would have to be aware of everything influencing our actions, including
environmental factors, our precise mood, the influence of other people, the influence of past experiences, and more.
So we would have to have full awareness of all that. Now what does he mean by aware of it? Right? The whole thing will hinge on what he means by aware. Right? So, do I have free will if I am aware of those things? Now, of course, they're going to say you couldn't possibly be aware of all those things. Right? That's their whole shtick, isn't it? You have to be aware of all those things in order to be able to freely choose. If not, if you're not aware of all those things, then you can't make a free choice. You're making a determined choice of some kind, right? That's what they're saying. So they define free will out of existence into infinity immediately. And then they thrash around trying to find where free will exists, and they can't find it. Surprise. Now, of course, free will doesn't mean an infinite consciousness that's aware of absolutely everything under some crazy definition, whatever he throws in that huge bucket of stuff he wants. That's not what free will is. Free will is the ability to focus your mind, or not. It says that your mind will just do its thing unless you focus it. And your mind does its thing an awful, awful lot. So when you can focus your mind, when you do focus your mind, and you can choose to focus it more or less, but you can't choose to focus it infinitely because you have to go to sleep and stuff like that, and you do lose concentration after hours on the same task. Your brain gets bored and it wants variety. To the extent that we can focus our mind, it's within the nature and the context of our existence. Now, objectivists are very good with stuff like this. Whenever we're trying to talk about something, we always say, let's define our terms and let's concretize it, right? We don't like floating abstractions, which is just ideas that are divorced from reality. And we don't like just talking about concretes, divorced from ideas, because that's just pragmatism, right? So you've got to marry the two. You've got to be able to say why your concretes are justified by your ideas, okay? So we have a marriage of these things. We don't drop the context. And the terrible thing about this guy here, and Sam Harris for that matter, is that they totally drop the context of free will. Free will being something done by an evolved primate that has a consciousness of a specific nature. It's not omniscient or omnipotent. It's not a god. It's just an evolved ape with a certain amount of thought power. And it can focus its mind to some extent, some of the time. It can choose to focus its mind. And we can have theories and philosophy about that phenomenon. The fact that it goes to sleep shouldn't blow our philosophy apart, that this animal doesn't focus its mind sometimes. We're talking about the fact that it can focus its mind, and how amazing that is, that it can focus its mind on something, and what that means compared to a deer or a bear or a snake. Humans can focus their mind, and what does that give us? What does that mean? Now, of course, if we just throw that all out and say there is no free will because I've defined it out of existence because we're not omniscient and we don't know absolutely everything, that is simply stupid to begin with. Okay? Now, I would be fully justified in just saying that everything this guy says from this point forward is nonsense and drivel, which it is. So I would be fully justified in stopping the video right here and not wasting any more of my time or yours. But let it not be said that MrCropper is not thorough in his denunciation of people who are thoroughly wrong.
Influence of other people, the influence of past experiences, and more. Secondly, we would need to be in complete control of every one of them.
So complete control. We not only have to have awareness of all the things that influence us, but we would have to have complete control of them. Or else we have no free will. So he's just defined it out of existence to begin with. Now, is this an examination of free will, or is this defining free will out of existence and then playing hooky with ideas?
Either of these are true or even possible. Now, you might concede this but not think it a problem. Okay, you say, so I can't control all of the factors that led me to like the taste of ice cream, but on a more mundane level, I'm still in complete control over whether I choose chocolate or vanilla.
Now, you like the taste of sweet things. That's the part of the nature of the package that you were given when you were born. You like things that taste sweet, and things that taste like cyanide you do not like, right? And the smell of sulfur, which comes from rotting flesh, you do not like the smell or taste of that. And so you are in a body with a nature. Now, the problem with guys like this, of course, he's religious. The problem with guys, or he has a theology degree, I don't really know. But the problem with guys like this is they don't, they do not view the human body as the be-all, end-all answer to the situation. Objectivists do, right? There's nothing outside the human body. There's our brain, and our brain is amazing, and we can talk about it, and write books about it, and have philosophies, and poems, and movies, and novels, and paintings about the beauty of the human mind and the brain and its accomplishments, but it's still just a human being we're talking about. Now, this guy is confused because he thinks that human beings are just mistaken little dusty, little crappy, little accidental little instants, and that there's something out there called ideas, which are grand. He's a Platonist. He has a floating Platonic reality separated from this reality, and that's where his ideas are, and he divorces everything from the real world. He sets up definitions that are insane, and then he plays with ideas in a floating reality disconnected from the real world.
Not so fast. Again, consider this most simple of choices, chocolate or vanilla. Or, if it's easier, consider the last mundane choice that you had to make.
Now, let's say it's not chocolate versus vanilla. Let's say it's chocolate versus pineapple pistachio. And let's say that you don't like one of those. And let's say you've tried it and it just doesn't taste good to you. Okay? He says you can't choose that. Therefore, you don't have free will in what you choose. See? See how weak his case is? He defines free will out of existence, and then he uses the fact that certain things taste good on your taste buds or not, which is a metaphysically given fact, and you can have some influence on it, by eating certain things over time, or by being very hungry. Have you heard about the guy on a raft lost at sea who was able to catch fish with his bare hands in the water, and he ripped them apart and he ate their eyeballs and crunched and like this, because those things, his body needed those things, and he craved whatever, and he knew, and so he ate and devoured, and he lived to tell the tale. So your body will tell you what you desire. Now, do we therefore drop the context of the body and say, aha, you can't choose anything? See, you don't have free will. Free will means the ability to focus your mind. It does not mean an infinitely omniscient creature, right? It just means that when you are presented with some choices, sometimes when you focus, you can choose. It doesn't mean you will, right? If your friends say, what movie should we go to? It doesn't mean you'll focus. You know what? When you're sitting at that movie with your friends, does this not sometimes occur, ladies and gentlemen? You're sitting at the movie and you go, oh my God, I wish I would have focused on this earlier. You guys said, let's go to a movie, and I just said, okay, and here we are. God damn it, if I would have focused, I would have remembered there's that movie that's playing at that other theater over there. It's a cheaper theater, doesn't cost as much, and that's a good movie I wanted to see. And now here I am watching Dude, Where's My Car with you idiots. Because you didn't focus on it. You just said, okay, yeah. Right? Or have you ever gotten home from the store and you said, oh, I was walking around the store and I just never focused my mind. I knew I was going to forget, whatever it is, paper towels. You didn't have it on the list, but you remembered it in the car on the way there. And you were walking around saying, there's something, isn't there? There's something, but you just never stopped and focused. You didn't remember them. So this happens to us a lot. Or you order a burger, and you just order the burger and you're talking to your friend. You didn't really focus on it. You always order a burger. The burger gets there. You've got no onion and no mayonnaise. Oh my God, you didn't focus. You weren't focused earlier. You just did what came automatically. You see? You see? You can choose to focus. Now, these are real instances I'm giving you. Now, you might dismiss them and say these are kind of pithy instances, Mr. Cropper, but this is what free will is made of, you know? And choosing to focus any given day. For example, you ladies and gentlemen have made it now several minutes into this video. What, 10 or 15 minutes into this video? And you are focusing on my words about philosophy? You're choosing to do this. You could very much go and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and look out the window, right? And listen to some TV show, or not even listen to it, in the background while you eat your sandwich and unfocus your mind. And you're listening to my words, aren't you? So yes, we can choose to focus. Now, if I keep going on, or if I say something that's nonsense or arbitrary, I might lose you, okay? You can focus on my words as long as I'm saying something salient, right? You're focusing on my thoughts here. So you have something to focus on, to choose to focus on. Oh, you have no free will. Mr. Cropper has to be salient in order for you to choose to focus on him. Otherwise, you lose concentration. Okay, therefore you have no free will. See how weak this case is against free will? Of course you have the ability to focus. Your mind as a human being inside of you as an instantiation of a living entity. You're not an omniscient creature.
Walk or drive this morning, go out or stay in tonight. Think about why you chose one or would choose one over the other. So what would make me choose vanilla over chocolate? Well, there is only one possible answer, which I'll elaborate on shortly. I would need to want it more than chocolate. In order to choose vanilla, I'd need to want vanilla. But is this something I can control?
So you can't control your wants. Therefore, we have no free will. See how weak this is? Free will is simply the question of, do we have the ability to focus our mind at any time, ever? And if you say yes, we can sometimes choose what to focus on. That's all I need for my case. Because I zone out on the way to work. I go into zombie mode when I'm driving, and I go right past gas stations that I need to stop at to fill up if I'm not paying attention. Okay? So we go into zombie mode a lot. Alright? You guys go into zombie mode when you're listening to my talks here. And I know that, and therefore I stress and repeat things. I go over them again. See, I've just done it. Because I know that you're listening to and thinking about the last thing I said, and now you're catching up with what I'm saying now, so now I'm going to continue, but I have this cadence that rolls through because I know how a mind focuses, and I'm trying to keep you focused on my thoughts. So, you have free will, and I'm trying to pander to your free will. I'm trying to keep you focused on the point that I'm making. Okay? Now he says that you can't choose what's interesting to you. You're apparently here watching this video because you're bored by SpongeBob SquarePants, so you're watching Mr. Cropper instead. But you didn't choose that. Now you see how weak that case is? Of course you choose. Of course you've chosen to come here and watch this video by Mr. Cropper, and you're choosing to try to pay attention to the words that I'm saying, and you're carefully trying to focus on and concretize the meaning of what I'm saying because you're trying to get meaning out of it. Why? Because you believe it's valuable or helpful or you're interested in it or something, whatever your goal is, right? So you're choosing to focus your mind. This is so simple and so easy and so basic for the objectivist philosophy. It's almost like we're cheating or something. Like we're just sitting here talking about free will. Yes, of course it exists, and it exists in this way, and we can see it happening while you listen to my words. Right? And they can't find free will. But that's, of course, because they define it out of existence to begin with, And once they've defined it out of existence, then they thrash around unable to discover where it is.
Than the desire to be healthy. It
Okay.
just is.
Here we are.
Again, remember, you can't control the strengths or objects of your desires. It's they that control you.
Okay. That would have to be his conclusion, wouldn't it? Now, in any given moment, like the man out on the raft who ate the fish, in any given instance or moment, you're controlled by your desires to some extent. You have the ability to focus and choose among them. But let's say you feel like going to a movie. Are you going to stop and focus and think, now, what movie would I really like to see? Or are you just going to walk into the theater and pay for the first one that strikes your fancy? So it's how much do you want to focus and what do you want to focus on? You have the ability to focus your mind. It's a question of how much do you focus and what on. Now, if you say that free will doesn't exist because you've defined it out of existence, therefore you're presented with this menu by reality all the time, and you choose among them through some method, but not free will, remember, because we've just designed free will out of existence. We've defined it into oblivion. So you do choose, and you do choose by some method, okay? But that method's automatic. Now, what does that mean about your desires? What does that mean about your thoughts, your values? It means that they're automatic. It means they just come to you some way, right? Now, went back a little extra there. So let's listen to this. This is key.
It just is. Again, remember, you can't control the strengths or objects of your desires.
Now, over time, you can. In any given instance or moment, you might have very strong strengths or desires. But over time, you can start smoking. For example, I started smoking electronic cigarettes at the age of 32. I never smoked real cigarettes in my whole life. A couple times in high school, but I was never a smoker in my whole life, and I still have not ever smoked real cigarettes. At the age of 32, I took up electronic cigarettes because they're convenient, easy. I can do them anywhere. They don't smell. You can do them in a restaurant if you're careful about it, and nobody notices. So electronic cigarettes are something that I took up. I chose to take up. Yes, you can choose things. All of us can choose things. Over time, we do choose things. Now that I've started smoking, it's really hard for me to not want. It's impossible to not want. I have a chemical desire now for it, right? So I can't choose that. So he would say that I'm trapped now. But how did I get trapped? I chose. I chose because of the pleasure of the smoking experience. I chose to start the habit when it became convenient enough for me. So again, we're just surrounded by instances of free choice, our ability to focus or unfocus. And then maybe I focused enough to say I want to start smoking these convenient, fun electronic cigarettes, so I have something to do once in a while when I'm at work, when I'm doing something boring or stupid, and I can just take a hit off of this stupid little cigarette, and it gives me something, and so I start, and now I can't stop, or it's difficult for me to stop, and my free will is ruined. You see, these things are not that hard to think about. They're not that hard to think about unless you destroy free will from the very beginning. Now, I want to skip ahead. I apologize if I went on a little bit there. I think there was something I wanted to expand, and I just recircled to my thought without expanding. I apologize.
Concluded that you can't control your wants, so actions motivated by wants aren't really free either. So being forced to do something isn't...
So you can't control your wants. Actually, you can control your wants over time, right? If I really focused on it, I could stop smoking, couldn't I? We can control our wants over time. It's difficult. And how would we do that? We would have to use our free will and focus our mind, which he's already defined out of existence. Therefore, our wants, our desires, our beliefs, our values, and our actions are all automatic. Now, if that's true, we're all set for dictatorship, aren't we? If people are just acting automatically like automatons, we can't reason with them, can we? Now, if we can't reason with people, then we better just come up with a system to force them to do what we like. So this is the siren song of dictatorships. Now we're going to go to 1150 and finish up here.
...hated and fearful affair should be this. Yes, you can do whatever you want. You just can't choose what it is that you want. And where's the freedom in that? If this video...
Okay. Okay, if he made it all the way through that whole video, and at the end he gives me the ability to choose the things that are before me, that's all I've ever wanted. I never tried to define it out of existence. Of course, you can only choose the things that are before you and within the finite limits of your consciousness. CosmicSkeptic, you, sir, have failed. Now, shall we try to do an extra? Where's my extra? Alright, now I may do more with this gentleman in the future. We'll see. This was fun. There are other videos of his I will do, in fact. MrCropper out.
X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door and spread.